Minasan, konnichiwa. Hello everyone. Welcome back to Learning Japanese with Marcelo. So this lesson I will be teaching you guys some Japanese, but I would say more about the Japanese culture. We're gonna discuss a little bit about that. And as you can see, it is another lesson based on the Netflix series Alice in Borderland. Okay, is a TV show that I watched and I'm really into it right now, and I found out like a couple of interesting facts about it. So that's why I've been creating these materials and sharing them with you guys. If you're not like really into the show, don't worry, I will be bringing back my regular Japanese lessons, but for now it's just like I really want to share this kind of contents with you guys. Okay, so today we're gonna be talking a little bit about manga, which in my opinion it plays kind of a big part in the Japanese culture, uh, especially because I don't know, I kind of felt that it was even bigger when I moved to Japan. Before that it was just like, oh, it's like a comic book, but it is kind of something very unique. So we're gonna be talking a little bit about that, and yeah, and also the relation with the TV show. As I told you guys before, the Netflix show is actually based on a manga. Well, it's based on an anime, which is based on a manga. So the original version of this story, Alice in Borderland, it is actually delivered by manga, and that's pretty cool. Okay. So first of all, the question is, do you guys recognize all of these guys here? Some of them are kind of pretty, clear who they are, but others not so much. So I will also be showing you guys who they are. The characters are in the Netflix show and in the manga. Okay, so let's have a look. So the first one I have, of course, is Arisu. So Arisu Ryohei is his name. Okay, the kanji are these ones. And here, guys, just a quick point again. I mentioned before, but just one more time. If you guys are new to the Japanese culture, I would like to share with you guys that Japan is very interesting when it comes to names, because we can be called by your first name or by your last name or by a nickname. It really depends, But as you can see here, Arisu, even by his close friends, he's called Arisu, right? So nobody actually calls him Ryohei except his father on the first episode. So it's kind of interesting because I don't know if you guys where you live, if you also have the culture, but for me, in Brazil, or working abroad, I've never really had that experience of people calling me by my last name, which is funny because some people don't even know my last name. But in Japan, actually, when I moved to Japan, and especially when I got into high school, it was kind of weird to be called by your last name, and it's just like very unusual when you're not used to it. And first, like the rule is that if you are not close to someone, you cannot call them by their first name, but it has to be by their last name. So, and that is not necessarily related with being polite or not, because for example, a teacher that is above you, he can call you by your last name without saying the son, right? But of course, if you want to be polite, then you will add the son, or sama to be even more polite, or chun, right? Anyway, it's just a quick reminder. I do have lessons on that as well, and I will be making more material. But in here, we're gonna see that some characters like Arisu are called by their last name, others by their first name, and others by a nickname. So that actually happens in Japan, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so the second one that we have here is Usagi, right? So I think they are pretty similar, and especially if you guys have seen already the scene where they get to the beach. She's wearing exactly kind of the same outfit over there, and it's pretty cool. So I totally like recognize her from here. And her name is Usagi Yuzuha. Maybe I think I didn't mention this before, but her first name actually is Yuzuha. Okay. um, and the most obvious, I would say, of course, is Kuina because of her hair and the cigarette, um, thing that she's always biting in order to quit smoking, and her swimsuit. But yeah, she's definitely one of my favorite in the manga and also in the Netflix show. Okay, and her first name, if you guys didn't know, is Hikari. Okay, so it's Kuina Hikari. Well, her name now. Okay, not gonna say any more for no spoilers. But anyway, Hikari is a very popular name in Japan. Okay, it means light or bright, but it's actually a beautiful name for girls. And I know a lot of people that actually, yeah, their name is Hikari. And fun fact is, even like we have an internet provider in Japan that it was like Hikari Netto or something like that, which is, implying that the internet connection was as fast as, light. And it was pretty cool. But anyway, Hikari is her Kuina's first name. Okay. Next on the list, guys, we have Aguni. Okay, so Aguni is his last name. This is the kanji. And his first name actually is Morizono. Okay, Morizono. So on the manga, this is him, which is, pretty close, I would say. Especially this here is the scene where he got attacked by the horse head, and, he got his eye kind of the scar over there, so it's still bleeding. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Um, and yeah, then the next one we have Niragi, uh, who first name is Suguru. Okay, I don't think we hear that on the show, but he's always called by Niragi, uh, who is actually a kind of, very like a character in my opinion. But it is cool. I want to mention here that when they show his backstory, in the show. I'm not gonna go into details to not give you any spoiler, but it that kind of portrays, something that happens a lot in Japan, because in Japan we have this culture. Well, it's not a culture, but uh, people that are kind of, they kind of dress up as Niragi and they behave like him, or they even get, let's say, involved with the Yakuza mafia. We call those young people Furio, okay? Which means basically like, it's kind of hard to translate into English, but it's basically, like those teenagers or that are just lost, and they are always doing bad stuff, and they swear a lot and that kind of stuff. Okay, so Furio. And Niragi is a very like typical Furio basically, and on his backstory you will see how come that he became someone like that, and that actually happens a lot in Japan, you know and not the fact that a lot of people become Furio, but the fact why they become, like Furio, or they become uh, kind of Nito, which I mentioned the lesson before, right? People that really cannot socialize and get a work and get a life, and in the worst case, people that commit suicide, right? So yeah, so when you guys watch that scene, you will realize what I'm talking about. But I'll be talking about that in a future lesson about, Japanese culture. So for now, let's focus on the character. And as you guys can see here, it's pretty similar in my opinion. The hair is not as long, but especially this like shirt that he's wearing here, probably they made it from the drama, from the manga, because it's impossible that it's so alike. But he's definitely like, like the same character, and that's pretty cool. Now, next on the list, we have the Rasubosu, which comes from the English last boss. Again, it's interesting how they, you know, make these Japanese words from the sound. And I mentioned the last lesson that we don't have the L sound in Japanese, so L become R, so it becomes Rasu, né? And Bosu, né? Rasubosu. Rasubosu is last boss, okay? And that's the last boss, who is also one of my, he plays one of my favorite scenes in the show, at the last final episode, I guess. But his name, although I don't think anybody mentioned it in the show, his name on the show is actually Samura Takatora. Okay, Takatora being his first name and Samura being his last name. And if you just hear Samura, you might think of samurai, and also because he carries a sword and everything, but this has nothing to do with samurai. As you can see, the kanji, okay, Murai is a very common, kanji names. But yeah, his backstory, as I was saying, from Niragi, is kind of interesting as well, because it has that cultural aspect of people that are really into something and they don't fit into the society. Japanese culture, from my opinion, again, guys, if you disagree with me, that's okay. But from my opinion, my point of view, I feel that it is kind of hard to fit in the Japanese society, especially if you are 100% Japanese. I was half, so I kind of got away from a lot of things, if you get what I mean. But if you are 100% Japanese, that means that you were expect like a list of things, and people that don't do that, they are really kind of criticized from the culture, from the society, and that gets to a lot of people. I graduated from a university that was languages, basically, teaching languages. So that means that most of I would say all the Japanese people that were studying there were into this Western culture, or a foreign culture knowledge, and a lot of them actually went to study abroad and live abroad. So for those people, I have a lot of friends from uni that actually they told me themselves that it is hard to fit in a Japanese society, especially after living abroad and coming back to Japan, because you are still, they expect you to behave in a certain way. And one quick example of that is the Osaki ni shitsure shimasu culture that we have, which I'm not going to get into details, but basically it's just the custom of before you leave work, you have to ask for permission, regardless if you are doing overtime or not, paid or there's no paid overtime, actually, most of the time. But anyway, that's something that a lot of people don't do. Like, I can't imagine that happen in other countries, but in Japan, you are expected to say that, to ask for permission, and if you don't do it, especially if you're 100% Japanese, you will be criticized, So anyway, I found, and if you guys watch the show, you will see when Samura, before he becomes the Rasubosu, his lifestyle kind of, mentions a little bit about that, those people, in my opinion. So it was very, interesting for me. Okay? Now, next one, guys, we have Shibuki Saori. Now, Shibuki being her last name, Saori is her first name. Saori is a very, very another popular name as Hikari. Okay, of course, when we something interesting, guys, is that even though we have the same name in Japanese, Saori, or even Hikari, you can choose different kanjis. Hikari is kind of hard because it's only one kanji, but whenever you have two kanjis or three kanjis, basically you can, choose different versions, which is why it's really hard to actually read Japanese names especially for the young generation, because it's all basically this, we call it ateji, which is not really the original way of reading those letters, but it is pretty cool. But this is pretty a regular, a standard Saori. Okay, and Shibuki is her last name. Now, if you do the comparison here, this is the scene where when she arrives right to the game, and she's wearing her office lady clothes with her bag. Here the jacket is dark, but I found it pretty similar actually. Maybe her hair here was brighter, but I really think it's kind of similar, so it's cool. And then we got Boshia, okay? Just like Rasubosu, Boshia is how he's known on the show as the hatter, okay? Boshi means hat, Ya means the store. I mentioned the last lesson. If you guys are curious about the Japanese origin, go back to that. But anyway, his name on the show before he became, the leader of the beach, it was Dhamma Takeru, okay? So this Dhamma being the last name and Takeru being the first name. Now, in my opinion, they don't look alike at all. It's the least alike character that I found. Maybe because in the manga, he really looks kind of, I don't know, he reminds me of Joker. He has this like crazy, personality, which is kind of like a Mad Hatter personality, isn't it? I don't know, but on the show I found him very like peaceful and cool, at least most of the time would say, but yeah, not really similar in my opinion. But again, with the clothes, I think they made a good comparison, a good match. Now, oh, this one here is different, guys. I have to change here. The kanji is correct, but the kano mira. Okay, so this is mira kano. Kano being her last name and mira being her first name. Okay, so this is her on the manga, and this is her on the series, and I found them pretty alike as well. So yeah, that was really good in my opinion. Especially her like facial expression for me was very very good. Kind of that psychopath, like happy, excited like face, and that was a little bit scary. But I found that she played it really really well. Even the first time that I saw her, that the first scene that she appears, I was like, wow, who is this woman? So it was pretty cool. Anyway, Mira is a good, interesting name, first name, because this kanji here is the kanji could be for mirai, which means future in Japanese. So Mira is actually a cool name, right? Like I know some people that are called Mira, and they also use this Mirai. And for me, like having a name which the kanji of Mirai is pretty cool. And this is something, guys, that I really like about names is that in Japanese is because your name has a meaning, and that's so cool compared to our names that are just alphabet letters. You know what I mean? So I actually have a tattoo of my Japanese name, first name and last name, because I just love it, having this meaning, and it's pretty cool. Anyway, moving on, guys. This lesson is gonna get long again. So this is Karube. Okay, Karube first name is Daikichi, if you didn't know. So Daikichi actually is pretty an interesting name because it means like good, like a big luck, and it's a very lucky name. Let's put it this way. Okay, Karube is his last name. On the manga, he's blonde as well, and he looks more, I would say he looks more Furio. Okay, so again, mentioning that Furio concept. Here he was a little bit more well behaved, but he did give us that impression, that he was good at fighting and everything. But I don't know, on the manga version, I found him more like uh, like a more Furio type of guy, let's say. Okay. Chishiya. What do you guys think about Chishiya? Chishiya, his first name is Shuntaro. Okay, so Chishiya Shuntaro. And on the manga version, I didn't really think they are very alike. But the hair reminds, like kind of the color, and maybe I think the actor actually is was very good at about bringing that Chishiya's personality of being very, kind of quiet and cool, and and smart, and I think that's kind of it goes with the character, original character. But physically speaking, I'm not very sure how much, but it's not bad, I would say. Now, Chota for me is completely off. Okay, even more than the header itself, because first of all, the hair is completely different. He has like a long hair, which like looks bright, like blonde probably. And he's really small. On the TV show, he is smaller than the other two guys, but he is a more Majime type of guy. Majime, guys, is the opposite of Furio, okay? Majime is the correct guy. Although, like, he was not really, like, working, and he was running from work on the first episode, so he's not very Majime. But he was dressed up as a sarariman, who are those guys who work, for a Japanese company and everything. So I don't really see him as this. I would never guess that this Chota in the manga was this Chota here. Okay, and again, guys, about the name, isn't interesting how Arisu is known and is called by his last name, and Chota on the show, as you see, he's called by Chota, his first name. Nobody calls him Segawa, I think. Okay, so again, it really depends on, case by case, if you're going to be called by your first name or your last name. Okay, and just to wrap up our lesson, guys, I just want to touch a little bit about the manga art in Japan. So again, manga is something very, I don't know if it's actually originally created in Japan, because of course we have comic books everywhere, right? I don't know which country came up with comic books first, but I will tell you guys that Japan is very famous for manga because they are awesome at it. Like the art, the way that they do it is just super impressive. This here is one of my favorite scenes. I think it's episode 2, when we have the horse head, and the manga just blew up my mind. It's just so beautiful, and even more, like, I would say, even scarier than the show, right? And it is cool. I found some versions, like, this is in Japanese, but I found some versions in French and English, of course. So I will see if I can find a link. I will also that you guys can download or buy it online. But I'm sure if you go to Amazon and you type it, you can find it to buy it as well if you guys are into it. Now, I tell you guys, I haven't really been reading the manga because I noticed that there's a lot of things going on, and they're gonna bring me spoilers for season 2, and I really want to watch season 2 without knowing a lot of stuff. But I already found some facts that's gonna happen, and I was like, okay, stop, you're not gonna read manga, because otherwise it's kind of gonna take that fun away. My plan is to watch season 2 and then go back. But yeah, and look at this, guys, it's amazing. This is sorry, I forgot, this is the last slide, guys, and some spoiler, okay, for episode 3. Here we go. So if you guys have seen already episode 3, if you haven't, please don't stop the video right here. Okay, this is the last video, the last slide. But if you've seen it already, let's go. So this is the third episode, I think, when they play the game 7 of Hearts, and we have that sad, ending. And look at this, guys. It's this for me is pure art. It's like it shows us how Arisu felt, after the end, what happened, and it's so scary and sad. I don't know if you guys cried. I cried like crazy when I watched that episode, and this for me is really really like it's really cool, and the tears here as you see as he's running, looking for his friends, and wow, it's just amazing, So again, like it's funny to see like how I've had the chance to work in an elementary school in Japan, and I had some students like what 10-year-old, 9-year-olds that would come to me and say like whenever the topic was brought up, like what do you want to be when you grow up, and they would say, oh, I want to be a manga artist. And you could see sometimes on their notebooks that they would have some scratches and stuff, some of them starting like really really bad, but some of them actually very talented, and there are a lot of talented people. I even saw a documentary about how hard it is for you to actually become a manga artist in Japan, because I don't know if it's because there's a lot of competition or but it is really 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 hard to get published, and and everything. But I feel like it's amazing how when you see like something like this, it's really cool, especially of course when you like the story. But for me it's just cool to see how the Netflix show that I love basically originated from this. Like it's pretty cool. And I don't know how actually like which one, when the manga came out, if they had the script first, the story first, and then they created the manga, or if it was a like simultaneous creating process. But it is very cool the way that they did the manga. So again, if you guys are into manga, it's a great chance for you to read in Japanese. So of course you can read in English, buy it in English first, but in Japanese, guys, all the kanjis, they will here. I have only hiragana, but all the kanjis basically they have the furigana, which is the small hiragana on the side, like here. So it is like if you already know hiragana and katakana, you can read like comic books in Japanese, and I really recommend that for you to practice. Okay, but that's it, guys. I have to finish this lesson. It's almost like 30 minutes. Again, another big lesson, long lesson. But I hope you guys enjoy this. And until the next one, take care. Bye bye.